What's good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the Collective Clips where you already know we get it in, right? But before we get it in, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Ding! Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I'm kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel and it's all because of you. And for that, I can say I'm very humbled, man. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Now, trip out on this, man. Some guy asked me a question the other day. He said, Gun, can you explain to me why the Norteños and the Southsiders, man, can just function in prison and get along? There's an end to hostilities, humps. They're all just handling their business together. But they can't do it on the calles. They can't do it on the streets. You know, what's the deal with that? What's the trip with that? And it's very explainable, very easily explainable, man. And I'm going to give you the rundown to the best of my knowledge, why that is and why that's going to continue to be. So when this end of hostilities went into play, and the end of hostilities, no matter how you cut it up and flip it, it's a truce, okay? It's a defensive stance. It's basically saying, hey, we have goals, we have purposes on these yards, man, within the CDC, within the California Department of Corrections, that better benefit certain groups, better benefit all groups, man. And the only way to further these goals and to maintain eligibility out there on the main lines, being, you know, eligible to be out there and not slammed back and not you know, stretched out in them shoes, you know, and be validated and be having fucking, you know, indeterminate shoe programs. The only way to do that is to somehow convince the administration or the authorities in charge that you can get along, that there's no beef. And they've been maintaining this and sticking to their word and sticking to this pact that they made, you know, that these forefathers made in the shoe, these legends, as Dubs likes to call them, in the shoe. They've been maintaining on them yards for a very long time. Now, what happens is you build relationships when you're on the yard, whether it's a business relationship, a personal relationship, or just, you know, an understanding that, hey, it further benefits us to function with you guys, right? So North and South has been functioning hand in hand. Now, lately, we've been hearing certain things about them coming together even closer to handle what they consider the opposition or the adversary, being the S&Y guys or the guys that are non-conforming, degenerates, non-active, dropouts. And, you know, we've heard plenty of instances where there has been skirmishes between North and South, you know, little skirmishes. And some people feel a certain way. They feel like, hey, one skirmish is as big as a great skirmish, right? That there should never be any other group putting hands on your people. I agree. You know, the way I was laced up, the way I was taught, if anybody poses a threat or anybody puts hands on your people, period, it's on and cracking. No questions, no ifs, ands, or buts, just the way it is. But things have changed. You know, we're in a different era. We're in a different decade now compared to when I was incarcerated. I can't never reflect back on that and say that is now, because now is very different. Now what you have is the people who actually are the shot callers, are the people whose words matter in prison, running the yards. They're out there in the yards, and the inside definitely controls the outside. But in this instance and for this content, it seems that it doesn't. And we're going to get to that. So anyways, when you have North and South functioning on them yards, I believe it's a beautiful thing. It's a great thing, and it shows how powerful all raza coming together can be a force, you know, as a force. Not to, you know, impose their will, impose a threat to other ethnicities, other groups, but just to show force. Sometimes you need that. What could be, what should be, what could have been, right? But might not necessarily ever be. Now, when you have these guys coming together and they're getting off on their opposition, they're not seeing color lines. They're not seeing North and South. They're seeing active versus non-active. They're seeing we got to hold it down for the general population yards, no matter what side you're from, because these guys are trying to invade. These guys, the administration is placing these guys, whether it be bulldogs, S&Y groups. And there are a lot of S&Y gangs, okay? There's gangs like 2-5, Northern Riders. Of course, there's gangs like, you know, Independent Riders and Zapatistas. And of course, you have groups like the GBGs or whatever. You know, whatever group you've heard of, they probably came up with a name for it. And when administration decides to place these guys, integrate them, which is what's happening now, you know, the guys that are in general population who have been functioning for forever on these yards are not going to take that lane down. They're going to get off where they're mad at immediately. Because if they allow these guys to establish on the yard, man, it's chaos. It's anarchy. It's worse, right? So North and South does come together within the prison system. There's a lot of respect. And I can tell you how much respect there is, because even back in my days, man, functioning on yards with Southsiders or Sureños, them vatos carry themselves very professionally and with a lot of respect. I remember I had neighbors in Susanville, man, who were those guys. And I can tell you right now, man, it was all love. It was these guys made it a point every day to give us a buenos dias, you know, buenas noches in the evening time, shoot sopas, bars of soap, CDs, sharing stories back and forth. We conversated like if we were old school homeboys. There was no color line there. If you didn't know better, you would think that we were all close homeboys. That right there gave me an understanding that the North and South wasn't too different. If you could have respect for a man, then you could function with the man. You know, people like Young Dopey, the rapper, man, who one time I seen him doing an IG live and there was a lot of gangbanging going on in the chat, North and South. And he let everybody know straight up, hey, I got respect for the Northern raza. He said that when he was in the hole or when he was in the shoe, you know, they looked out for him and shot him a care package. There's been plenty of times that Southsiders have shot me a care package or vice versa, man. That's just mutual respect for the raza. So you say to yourself, somewhere as dangerous and treacherous as prison, the California prison system, one of the most dangerous systems in the world, if they can have that much respect to longtime adversaries, to longtime oppositions, then why can't that happen on the streets? And quietly as it's kept, I'm going to explain why it doesn't happen on the streets and why it probably never will. You have a lot of hard-headed individuals that have never been anywhere on the streets. And when I say never been anywhere, and when you hear a lot of people say, hey, you ain't been nowhere, Holmes, right? They're talking about prison. Okay, you could have been to Egypt. You could have been to fucking Miami, Florida. You could have been anywhere, but you've never been where that upper echelon, the upper level of the gang counts, right? Where you've transitioned from being just a street gangbanger and gang member into now a prison gang member or part of organized crime or part of something bigger than yourself, part of the cause, right? The cause is not on the streets. The struggle is on the streets. The cause and the struggle is behind them walls. Okay, that's where it counts. That's why a lot of these youngsters that think that they're putting in work on the streets and they're handling their enemiga and they get locked up and they find out that people just laugh about it. It's not a big deal. It's not a big issue. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes there that matter more than the crime that you're in for. Yeah, you're a good camarada. You're a good homeboy. You know, you're a good homie until you're not. And that's just it. You know, all that work you put in can end like that if you end up on the wrong yard with the wrong person. Hey, and there is people that do individualism and homeboy favoritism. You know, I've been in my county jail for one, man. My neighborhood in my city is very well known. And usually there's a lot of us in the county jail. And other guys from other cities, surrounding areas in the county or the jails will come in. And if a homeboy doesn't take a liking to him, then it wasn't a bullying tactic, but we were all going to stick together because we were from the same barrio. We grew up together. So there was a lot of homeboy favoritism and individualism. And it's unfortunate that's just the way it was. So that's the way it is in every city. If you're not from that one group or you're not from the bigger gang, man, you're always going to be, there's always going to be people in opposition to what your thinking is. There's always going to be people that are trying to pressure you or oppose what you got going on, man. You know, it's oppression's a big word, and it happens in all shapes, sizes, and forms, and to everybody. Whether you're a Southsider, man, and you got a lot going on within your own carro, your own rafla, your own people, there's a lot of people there that if you're not that one or from a certain area and that area is deeper than your area, then you might not be involved in the reindeer games and not get as much as the other person. And it's unfortunate, but it's the way it is. Same thing in the Norte, right? If you're not from Salas or a certain barrio or from San Jose, I remember the vatos from San Jose respects to San Jose first and foremost, but they played that San Jose thing, especially in the youth authority and even sometimes in prison. You know, they showed their homeboys just a little bit more respect. If you were from the valley, you didn't really have nothing coming with them, depending upon how deep you were. See, now it's a little bit different. Now there's more canalismo, more unity. People are coming together because everyone understands with so much dropouts, you know, being out there, so much people falling off, you know, for whatever reason, whether they're whacked and removed or they just don't want to participate anymore because they feel it's dirty politics or they're just ready to move on in their life. You know, vatos got to stick together. They got to come closer together because you're all you have. And that's understandable. Now, behind them walls, there is unity in some form or fashion. Okay, there's an end to hostilities, meaning they've decided that in order to function on these yards and to be able to not cause or stir up the administration to find a reason to slam them back in the shoes, that they're going to fucking come to some type of understanding and a truce basically, you guys do your things, we do our thing. But at the same time, man, if we have to come together for the greater good of the yarda, they're going to make it happen. Case in point on the thumbnail, when the bulldogs were placed on the yard, that was allegedly North and South that both got off on them. Okay. And that wasn't North and South coming together because, oh, they had this grand scheme and plan of one day being a big group that dominates all prison yards. But that, again, that was them showing force. That was them showing, hey, we're not going to allow just anybody to be placed on our yards. It ain't going to happen. You got to understand, there's been a lot of struggle and a lot of shit that both sides have went through to establish these yards. Now, I know a lot of people like to say, well, the Southsiders have it good. They have the numbers. There's so many of them. They can go to any yard and dominate. But there's been plenty of times, man, even back in the days when they were first formulating, when the Southsiders weren't as deep as people think they are now, they were having to go up north or to certain yards, and they were being oppressed too. They were being ran up on. They were on site. You know, it all depends on timing, era, and just pretty much that's what it is. Every different group has had their time, man, when they've had to struggle. Okay? When they were the short end of the stick. That goes for the Woods, brother. Coffee. That's right. I drank mine this morning. The blacks, everybody goes through some type of thing. So you respect those guys that are on the yard still functioning, still coming from the streets, still cut from that cloth, still being able to walk those general population main lines. And that doesn't mean they're any tougher or any stronger or any different than the guys that are not walking general population. It's always going to be that way. They're always going to be looked at different. There's always going to be people that ain't never been anywhere that look up to these guys. Oh, they're really doing it. I would never PC up. I would never drop out. This is what a lot of the youngsters are saying until they get there. And then they find out that it ain't everything it's supposed to be cracked up to be. And it's harder than they think. And then they find themselves on an SMY yard. It happens all the time. So, you know, that's the way it is. They're able to come to some type of understanding and it benefits them. You know, it benefits some of these legends to be out on them yards, for business to be able to be conducted, you know, flawlessly, for these yards to become established and for people to have some type of freedoms. Because all you want in prison is social status of equality and a breath of fresh air. You know, you already have to deal with being incarcerated, being apart from your family. Any other hardship that you go through within the California system is what you bring upon yourself. Whether it be locked down because of a riot, whether it be locked down because of a removal, everything that you struggle with is not because you're doing time in the crime you commit. It's because you choose to take that upon yourself. And people are willing to make those ultimate sacrifices. There's people that are willing to go out there on the yard, do a removal or pegada, no questions asked, and do a little hold time. But they expect to do their hold time and then get out and get a few of those freedoms and liberties. Some people were not afforded that. That's why this end of hostilities was put into play, because they were deciding, the administration was deciding to validate these guys and to give them indeterminates and never release them back onto the yards. So they never got those freedoms. They never were able to get that breath of fresh air. And that was unfortunate. You know, it was inhumane and it shouldn't have never happened, but it did. And there was guys that went through 3 decades slammed behind those walls. You know, they started to validate and slam people, group what they considered guys validating members of certain organizations, the Big Four and other groups, in the 70s. Okay, it's been happening in the late 60s, 70s, 80s. You know, you hear about the lost era of the 80s in prison where you don't hear too much about it. That's because everybody that was anybody was already validated and slammed back. You know, it took a lot to reintegrate those yards and to get people on those yards to establish. So these guys don't want to lose that. That's why North and South has come together. Now, there's always going to be discrepancies. There's always going to be bullshit that happens. Prison is prison. There's always going to be an unseen of eye to eye. But as long as you are dictated by the right people, people with education and know what it is, and people who have done time and they are seasoned, Lowry's, right? Then you're always going to function on a good yard, an established yard. And best believe, like I said, everybody has struggled for their bars. Everyone has struggled for their corner of the yard. Everyone has struggled for that piece of land that they got. It may not seem like much, and people may laugh, hey, Holmes, prison's for the birds. Yeah, but sometimes that's all you have, and you have to fucking improvise and deal with what you got. Now, as far as the streets go, the reason why the North and South will never come together and they're always going to oppose each other is because, like I said, a lot of the guys that are out functioning on the streets have never been anywhere. They've never functioned at a level of respect with their adversaries, their opposition. See, I learned a long time ago, in order to have an opposition or adversary, you have to have some form of respect. It might not be the greatest respect, but you have to understand that they pose a threat just like you pose a threat to them. I hate when I see people banging internet banging, or even back in the days, just fucking live links banging over the phone or whatever, saying, you guys are all punks, you guys are all suckers, you guys can't see us. Shit, humps. Don't throw everyone into that salad bowl, crouton, right? It ain't like that. There's hitters and there's shooters and there's motherfucking real ones from everywhere. And there's a lot of guys, you know, in Southern California that don't even know what a norteño is or have no problems with norteños. Ain't tripping off them, ain't even thinking about them in the slightest. They don't wake up in the morning when they throw a red shirt on and think about, oh man, I'm going to be misconstrued as a norteño, because they don't have them down there. So it's like aliens to what they got going on. They don't know. Okay, unless you've been incarcerated and have done time, then you are of an understanding. Okay, when it comes to North and South, why they can't function together on the streets, there's too much sangre that has been spilled. There's too much hard-headed individuals that are not respecting what's going on the inside, not adhering to it, talking about fuck truces, fuck the end of hostilities, fuck all this, right? Because these guys feel that it's going to tarnish their image. I can never get along with the opposition. I can never conform to what's going on until they're incarcerated and they have no choice. And these same guys that were talking all that high-powered shit, how tough they are, this and that, then they get locked up and they will conform, or they will get performed on. That's just the way it is. So you say to yourself, if you're not willing to take a stance as a man and respect what's going on in there and apply it to what's going on the streets, you know, oh, because you're not no sucker, you ain't scared of death, you ain't scared of nothing, then why go in there and conform? Because you're scared of death. Maybe not scared, homes, but you don't want to die. Nobody does. That's just the way it is. There's no reason a man conforms to any other man and what he's got to say unless he feels that his life is threatened or there's a threat to what he's got going on. That's just plain and simple and period. I've had so many down-ass homeboys that were shooters, were willing to going out there, getting shot at, going back and forth. Then they get locked up and they go against the grain and they do something they necessarily wouldn't have done. And it's like, why do you do that? Well, the homies told me. Well, the homies told you out here too, and you didn't give a fuck. What's the difference? Oh, over there, they'll fuck you off. Well, out here, they will too. See, there's differences on the inside compared to the outside. But here's what isn't a difference. As a man, you have to respect yourself. And the only way to respect yourself is to respect others around you. Treat others as you want to be treated. You know, as far as the North and South issues, they're getting even more elevated. Whether it be on the internet, with all this lefty gunplay, lazy shit. You got Bozo who runs his neck all the time. You got fucking the no jumper bullshit. You got all this North and South, these unity songs and people going back and forth. And it's really heating up. And does it impact Southern California? Not really. It doesn't, because again, there's no establishment of norteños down there. And for whatever reason you want to twist it and give it, oh, they can never be down here, homes, we hold it down. Whatever you want to say never. You don't know what's going on. Do you understand that the whole northern movement was established by guys from down south? So they've already been somewhere along the lines ingrained down there, okay? Or the idealisms. Now, when you go up north in Northern California, there are upstaters. There is an establishment of Southsiders and Sureños, right? So the funk is really on. And I think because of so much blood spill and because of the way people think, the mentality, having never been incarcerated or not knowing. And a lot of these OG homeboys or homeboys that have been locked up that get out, instead of applying the pressure and saying, hey, Holmes, in there we were kicking back with them, let's not even trip off them. I remember I used to do that. It ain't that serious, bro. I ain't even tripping off them vatos. As long as them vatos don't pose a threat to me, I ain't tripping off them. Where other younger homies that had never been, no, homie, we're supposed to get, I'm here telling you, bro. Who told you this? I used to tell them, who the fuck told you? Well, I just know what it is. No, you have to know from being educated and laced up by someone. I'm here telling you that ain't the way it is no more. Okay, in prison, vatos are fucking respectful. Vatos are functioning. There's been times, man, where I've had black dudes and even white dudes look at me sideways. And Southsiders come up to me, are you good, Esse? Yeah, I'm good. What's up? All right, just checking on you, making sure you're good. That's how real it is. That's what, those are the fucking things that they won't tell you. You know, or when you get to the hole and the Southsider slides you a couple sopas. Hey, homie, I just hit for Cantina. Ponle. There you go. And you're like, oh, bro, I'm good. They're like, nah. Fuck that shit. That's it here. You know, and then likewise, you get them back. Because there ain't no way a fucking Mexican's not going to be eating on that tira. That's just the way we think. We all have the same type of mentality, bro. It's just the people that don't know or haven't been anywhere that push that line, that keep pushing that separation and that bullshit. Nah, homie, vatos can never be like us. Hey, ain't no one trying to be like you. You got guys like Bozo, right? And I've never really spoke ill of Bozo, but I got to keep it real. He pushes that line of hatred. He pushes that line of keeping North and South apart. And it's people like him that are supposed to have clecha, supposed to be maestros, supposed to get out and lace the gente on what it really is, rather than indoctrinating them with fucking propaganda and bias. It just doesn't work that way. And it goes the same way on the north side. You know, on the north side, this is how you have a lot of vatos that feel some type of way about the southern, what they call the southern invasion. And my thing is, Holmes, it ends at your doorstep. If you don't like what it is, Holmes, you could easily go out there and handle your business. But that's just going to be a constant and a redundant thing of people keeping on, if you understand what I'm saying. That is why North and South will never get along on the streets. Because a lot of the guys that are out on the streets never been nowhere and don't know what it is. Never functioned, never went through a real struggle. I'm talking about no cantina, being fucking left in the hole, struggling when all you have on your tiers, you're surrounded by Southsiders. They're the only people to conversate with. You have to be on point at all times. You know, that's real life. And when you see that these guys, man, they're not tripping off you, Holmes. They show you respect. They shoot you sopas. They look out. Your own fucking homeboys on the calles ain't shot you 10 bolas to look out. But a Southsider from San Bernardino did. Now, you got to think on that. That's why people like Young Dopey I respect, Holmes. Not because he showed a little bit of love for the Northern raza. That's a given. He did that just because that's the type of man he is. But because he speaks the real, and I could tell he's one of those guys that he soaked up the real education and he knows what it is. That's who I consider a real one. Okay, people that out there and they spit propaganda and they try to cause people to hate each other and they don't even know they should hate themselves because the way they look. Those are people that are fucking bullshitters and really they're the thorn in the side of the people, the raza. You know, will North and South on the streets ever come together and be cool? Probably not. Probably not, because you have too much people that don't want it that way. But they don't understand that in order to really get to a bag, in order to really get that respect from other ethnicities and other groups, you have to show some type of united front eventually. Will it happen? Probably not in our lifetime. But we'll see, man. As far as the inside goes, usually the inside does control the outside. But perhaps this is one of them things where it's not. You know, but it's like I said, it's been very, I've looked at it a whole bunch of different ways. It can be very easily changed. All it takes is one wheel out to hit them guys and say, shut up. This is the way it is, Holmes. If not, every time you guys come in, your whole body will green light it. Boom, you're going to get hit. And that was it. Vatos will be like, okay, we're cool now. You know, as far as the upstate movement and the southern movement, there are vast differences, man. They might be functioning as Southsiders, but when it comes to like the North and South issues and Vatos from down south, and we don't even know them Vatos. We ain't tripping. The Vatos that do spill blood with the North, they feel a certain way, and it's understandable. But at the end of the day, that seems to be causing a conflict. You know. Anyways, with that being said, just a little something I want to put out there. The answer for the guy's question: will North and South ever get along on the streets? Probably not. I don't think so, man. Behind the walls, it's a whole different story, and it shouldn't be. See, back in our days, whether you were locked up or outside, it was all the same. We're functioning on that same fucking level, Holmes, in branching union, hand in hand. That's just what it is. Whatever happened out there was happening in there. Okay, now it's different. What's happening in there, nobody wants to conform to because they feel like they're pressured. They can be pressured. They don't want to be told what to do. It just is what it is. Oh, you gonna mind somebody today. You gonna mind somebody. With that being said, I hope that you move with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. And remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the struggle to strive, the strive to struggle. I don't try to glorify these gangs and glorify and say it's cool to be a gang member and all that. You're going to do what you do, man. At the end of the day, I did it. I was through it, man. I wish nobody had to go through the shit I went through or seen some of the things I seen. But at the end of the day, as a raza and able to move forward, you have to be educated and of an understanding. Whether you lean one way or the other way, man, that's totally up to you. It's no disrespect intended. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive and struggle for what I truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people. And I need some coffee, brother. I need me another shot. Are you guys ready? Super Norteño Season 2. Enter the Southsider. This afternoon. Bang, bang.